Oh, such a big event happened recently. The Ukrainian armed forces, yes, the Ukrainian armed forces went to Kursk Oblast, the territory of the Russian Federation. Here, Russians even filmed some sort of the video showing the Striker armored vehicles. Yeah, obviously there is also the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Legion of Freedom, but the regular Ukrainian armed forces are also taking action out there, and we have proofs. Later on I'm gonna show you them. And mainly Ukraine doesn't hide that fact. Well, what is unique about the informational distribution of this assault that Ukraine is totally silent about it. No one speaks about the Russian Volunteer Corps, no one speaks about some sort of the Russian opposition forces. No, the information we have is coming just from the Russian sources and also from the situation on the ground with leaked videos. I'm gonna show you them also today. So a huge event just happened. Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Guys, the situation is so fresh that we don't have the military map updates, but we need to go to the standard Google Maps and I'll explain you everything for this hour. So the breakthrough of Ukrainian forces happened in Sudzha region of the Kursk Oblast. Sudzha district is better to say, and here's the Sudzha town, the biggest one in this place. So the attack from Ukrainian side happened in two of the directions. I'll not call those forces 100% Ukrainian army, no, there's also the Russian Volunteer Corps. So for now, let's call those allies. So according to the latest information, allies took Darino and moved towards cutting this very important road which connects Sudzha and other settlements. There is a big question about Gogolivka, whether the allies were able to take it under control. Let me delete all of that stuff. So by 100%, and also it comes from the Russian sources, that Russian group of several dozen soldiers is encircled now in Oleshna. Yeah, this village is totally 100% encircled. The event develops really fast, so I have the latest update just while I'm recording this video. So Gogolivka has fallen for the Russian army, Rubanshina as well. The fighting is ongoing in Goncharovka, which is very close to Sudzha. I would say it's the single big settlement. It goes from one to another with no any gaps. In Sudzha itself, the artillery fire was reported and locals evacuated yesterday. Yes, they've done it all the day on their own. So the evacuation wasn't organized by the Russian officials, by the governor of the oblast, but he called locals to leave their homes for good, but there is no any assistance given to civilians by the Russian administration. Now let's go to the northern side of the Sudzha region, and here Ukraine took Nikolaevo, Darino, Sverdlitkovo, and Ukraine, as I told you, cut this very important road. So judging on the information coming, I draw this kind of the situation out there. Probably again I called the attacking forces the Ukrainian army, but yes, those are allies for now. But if we speak about the armored vehicles, Strikers, Humvees, obviously those belong to Ukrainian army 100%, and Ukrainians are trained to operate those, so I guess that finally it's the Ukrainian army out there too. That's why Ukrainian officials are so calm about it. I would say it's the largest breakthrough actually since the beginning of the... And the Russian military bloggers continue to say that the fight is definitely very severe for them. And the Sudzha town may fall at any moment. What we know from the enemy sources and their surveillance reports that the Allied forces concentrated new reinforcements not far away from Yunakivka village, and they're ready to strike with more power. So indeed, this attack could be successful for Ukraine or Allied forces. I think for Ukraine after all. What is interesting that this part of the Russian border was controlled by the border control, but there were not many of the soldiers out there, but they were reinforced by conscripts. The conscripts are the very young Russian soldiers, usually 18, 19 years old. There is the compulsory conscription in the Russian army, so they are forced to go to the Russian army just for 1 year, as far as I remember. And after that, they are free to go to their normal civilian lives. But Russia usually forces them to sign the contracts with the Russian army, and many do not refuse. Well, anyways, those young soldiers were staying in the place, And also they were reinforced by, let's say, experienced Ahmad battalion. And the Ahmad battalion was the first one to leave the positions of the border. Yes, they left conscripts behind to fight against the prevailing forces and left their positions. This information is not coming from Ukrainian propaganda or something. No, this information is shared by the Russian Z military bloggers. And actually it is true. So the Allied forces encircled many of the positions, and now the Russian forces are being encircled in Oleshnya, as we know. So many of the Russian conscripts were eliminated or captured in custody. Some of them even gave the short interviews about their service, and they all called that they were abandoned by their commanders. And here we have the screenshot from the drone how the Russian soldiers been convoyed by Ukrainian soldiers from the Sudzha region to Ukrainian positions. Later on, obviously, they will be exchanged. And here are those conscripts who agreed to give the interview to Ukrainian or maybe Allied forces. But in this interview, they told that they were captured by Ukrainian armed forces. The interviewer asked who took you in custody, and they respond, Ukraine. And it is not the Russian video, so probably regular Ukrainian armed forces are taking part in this operation. Not probably, but 100%. There was the information that the Ukraine captured just local civilians, they were not wearing uniform, but no, those are the Russian army conscripts. And for example, the Astro source found the photo of one of the guys who is wearing the Russian uniform, and basically, yes, he's the Russian soldier, as the other one too. What they did out there after attack, they dropped out their uniform, their weaponry, and they tried to hide as locals, but Ukraine found them. And you see that the new marking was used on the vehicles which were coming from the Ukrainian side. Some sort of the triangles to identify the friendly vehicles. And here on the Striker you may see the same sign. This particular one is equipped with the mining plug. So is there the huge resistance by the Russian armed forces? Well, yes, they sent some of the reinforcements, they use aviation, and definitely they cause losses for allies, I may confirm that, but also they suffer tremendous losses themselves. Russians tried to send some of the tanks to the positions, and there are two of the tow trucks with the tanks, but both of them were ambushed by Ukrainian drones, as you may see. The vehicles were abandoned, and those Russians who survived went to the local woods. Also, Russia lost its K-52 helicopter, which was shot down by allies during this operation. And the Russian official military groups already said about the event. By the way, before Russian officials stated that they've repelled all of the Ukrainian attacks, but now they deleted that post and corrected it, saying that the fight is still ongoing. And also Russia lost its Mi-28 attack helicopter. This is the last image from the FPV drone taking. Yes, this is the helicopter, so this is the main rotor, those are the blades, this is the tail, this is the horizontal stabilizer, vertical stabilizer, this is the aft rotor. Here the tail goes back, the pylons for the weaponry from both of the sides, and there is the cockpit somewhere. So hopefully you understand that it was filmed from the aft perspective, so Russia for sure lost at least two of the helicopters today. And not the ordinary helicopters, no, those are rare, especially this one, Mi-28. My friends, if you like the job that I do daily on YouTube, you might also support me on Patreon. The link for my page is available in the video description just below. Thank you so much for your motivation and your kind support. Okay, this is the Ahmad Battalion commander, and he makes excuses about the Ahmad Battalion retreatment. Ahmad Battalion is definitely located at the border of Belgorod Oblast and Kursk Oblast. He said that they are still fighting out there, but they cannot control 400 kilometers. No, with a single battalion it's not possible. So Ahmad, if you have the breakthrough in one point, like for example in Sudzha district, just send your reinforcements out there. You don't need to control all of the 400 kilometers. You need to take the actual fight. Why are you staying a few kilometers away from the very important hotspot? Controlling the border for what? Your border has already been broken by Ukrainian army or maybe by the Russian volunteer corps, so you need to take the fight. But yeah, definitely someone is pussy out here. But he called pussies those who tell that Ahmad definitely left the positions. They did it 100%. It's confirmed by the Russian Z bloggers. And here he says that those Russians who write those messages should go and protect the border themselves. So again, Ahmad TikTok army just losing its reputation. They're mostly able to fight just against their own civilians. Or the civilians in Ukraine, that's what they do. It's behind the frontline army. I remember how before the full-scale war in Russia especially, everyone was scared of Ahmad, of Kadyrovites, but after they dig down their own reputation, no one is scared of them any longer. Now even the Russians call them the TikTok army and TikTok battalion. Remember how they were trying to fight against the Prigozhin army in Rostov-on-Don? Yes, they basically hit the traffic jam and weren't able to get to the place at the proper moment. Previously, the same individual said that Ukraine will use the rest of its forces in Kursk region, and after it, Russia will be more successful on the front lines, occupying more of the Ukrainian territories. Isn't he trying to say that what is happening in the Russian Kursk region is good for Russia? Well, in that case, Ukraine should strike even more, maybe even Moscow region. Who knows? That would be a jackpot for the Russian army, according to his logic. The Russian governor of the Kursk region, with a very sad face, said about the difficult situation in Sudzha district, and he called people to evacuate. That's the only help locals have from their authorities. Evacuate on your own. How would people do that? Come on. Well, in the latest statement, the Russian officials say that Sudzha was evacuated fully and there is no one out there, which is total nonsense. It's impossible to evacuate that town in such a short period of time. Even with organized evacuation, it would be impossible. So civilians are still in Sudzha and they're in local villages too, but they may not have communication tools like mobile network or internet. So why do the Russian officials say that Sudzha now is a ghost town with no civilians? Well, they understand that probably today the Allied forces will take that city under control, so Russian army wants to use aviation. So to make an excuse that they will bomb their own cities, they should say that there are no any civilians left and they bombed just Ukrainian army. But definitely there will be civilians. If you go to this settlement, here you may see that it has lots of the houses, here also, so definitely it's a big one. It is impossible to evacuate this place in a matter of one day. Yes, I agree that majority of locals left the place, but not everyone. And with 100% probability, their homes and households will be just grounded by the Russian Air Force. And here we have the video from the Kursk region. Yes, Russia is using their aviation. This is Sukhoi-25 attack airplane, which they could use against the ground forces of Ukraine or allies. More of those kind of the videos, guys, I publish on my Telegram channel. You may check it out in the video description just below, because most of those kind of the images and videos I cannot post on YouTube. That's why thanks for following me on Telegram as well. It's for free, guys. I just post all of the information initially out there. And this is the Russian map, so they confirm that Ukraine went on attack and now very close to Sudzha. They have a different view of the map, but they show kind of the similar details. They confirm the success of the Allied forces. By the way, Allies haven't used tanks so far. Those are just Stryker and Humvee vehicles. Also, according to the latest information, as you can see, Russians show it over here, Ukraine was able to remotely demine the supply road for the Russian army, using the special artillery shells which drop the mines on the road, on the fields, whatever. So Russia is unable to send the reinforcements through this road from the east. Probably the only variant for them is to go from the north, but here Ukraine also may use artillery and the drones as usual. So you may ask what this operation gives for Ukraine. Well, first of all, Russia is now concentrated to defend their own territory, because if they do not do it, the Allied army will just go take more ground, more settlements, towns, cities, and it would be a very, very hard task for the Russian army to regain the territory back. So they need to act very fast, and we know that Russia sends the reinforcements out there. But also Russians report that Ukraine still has the group of 2,000 soldiers, yes, 2,000 soldiers on the Ukrainian territory as the reinforcement for the attacking forces. Plus, you know, for this war to over, someday Russians should feel it not just on TV, but they should feel it on their territory. It is the normal step of escalation, there is nothing new in it. So Russia can attack Ukrainian territory and Ukraine is able to fight back, even attacking the Russian territory. So far, it looks like the biggest operation conducted by Allied forces on the territory of the Russian Federation. So I expected it to continue longer than usual than the previous attacks of the Russian Volunteer Corps or Legion of Freedom. Based on what we see, it's kind of the serious approach, and what is interesting that definitely the Ukrainian military command doesn't comment on that issue. What is this? Well, those are the remains of the Sukhoi 34 Russian fighter bomber, which was kaboomed in Morozovsk airfield of Rostov Oblast. Miraculously, those photos leaked to the internet, which is great. Well, not just the photo, but also the video may see that this airplane is definitely no-go. Well, maybe those two Russian technicians will fix it with the speed tape. But something tells me that it will not work. And just look at the size of this airplane. That's why those airplanes may carry lots of the bombs. As reports say, there are also two of the Sukhoi 34 fighter jets which were significantly damaged because of the Ukrainian drone attack. But this one is not damaged, no, it is completely no-go. Well, maybe Russians should have just used this fire extinguisher. What's the bad thing that Ukraine has already lost the chance to kaboom the most of the Russian fighter jets and fighters bombers on the airfields which are close to Ukrainian border, because now Russia understands the threat and moves out its planes further away from Ukraine. So now the majority of the Russian aircraft are outside the ATACMS missile range, unfortunately. Still, Ukraine might target the Russian infrastructure in those airfields, but it will not play the same great role as it could have played if Ukraine got the permission at the proper time. This is not my conclusion, many of the experts are saying about this stuff. But Ukraine continued to strike the Russian military airfields. For example, the airfield Oktyabrski in occupied Crimea also was on fire today. I'm still waiting for the confirmation satellite images from the place of what was really kaboomed in this airfield. Oh my god, Niger cancels the diplomatic relations with the Ukraine. Quite sad. So those new pro-Russian proxies like Niger and Mali are accusing Ukraine for organizing the attack on the Wagner forces in Mali. Well, maybe that's true and it's not bad. Well, they say that Ukraine cooperates with terrorists, but I think that the regimes in those countries are terrorists themselves. So it's actually good that we'll not have the diplomatic relations with those countries. The power in which was taken by the local military juntas, those countries have nothing in common with democracy. But the pro-Russian bloggers and the Russian official channels are trying to present it as the whole Africa is against Ukraine, taking two of the autocracy countries as example, Mali and Niger. But you know, everything is unstable in that region, and maybe tomorrow new government will take the power, so I want to be concentrated on that one. Right guys, now briefly about the frontline update. So Russia moved a little in New York today. They've took several streets and buildings. Why is it possible? Because Russia is using lots of the aviation gliding bombs. Ukraine tries to counterattack but unable to stop the Russian advancement in the settlement, so still Russia has initiative. The deep state military map also confirms that update, so it was yesterday and it is today, unfortunately. So there is still risk of encirclement for the Ukrainian group of the forces east from New York. But we see that mostly Russia has no movement in this particular area. What's about Pakrovsk direction with this major Russian assault? Well, here the update is in Zhelanya village and it was yesterday. Today, just a little advancement. Russia took a couple of the local households, that's it. The movement of the Russian army slowed down in general in this area, and probably because they changed their tactics to achieve smallest goal in New York, for example. Now they send the most part of the reinforcements into this area, and also Russia has the troubles with their Morozovsk airfield. It is not functioning any longer. It means that they have to limit the use of their aviation gliding bombs. And there is the chance that with a new front line open on the territory of the Russian Federation, Russia would have to send more reinforcements from the Ukrainian front line to protect their Kursk Oblast. Right, to some of the international news, the leaders of Iranian proxies, like for example Hezbollah, say that the attack on Israel is imminent. Well, they're speaking about the attack almost for 1 week already. Well, actually, it should have happened this night, but probably it will happen tomorrow. I'm monitoring the situation, so it will be the combined attack by Hezbollah, Iran, and Houthis, but I think that they will not reach their goal. They don't have enough resources for that, and the United States of America, United Kingdom, Jordan, Israel, they will all shut down those missiles, and I think that Saudi Arabia will also shut down missiles coming from Houthi rebels. Alright, now to the United States politics. Kamala Harris has selected the vice president, and his name is Tim Walz. He is 60 years old, and I think that from the all vice president candidates, he is the most pro-Ukrainian. Well, actually, there were no bad choices for Kamala to select. I mean, Mark Kelly and Josh Shapiro, and this guy, they all do fantastic job. Tim Walz served in the National Guard for 24 years. After it, he went to politics, and in Minnesota as the governor, he introduced the ban on investments to the Russian Federation after Russia has started the war against Ukraine. Also, he was one of those American politicians who supported the no-fly zone over Ukraine right at the beginning of the full-scale war. He even went to the meeting saying that the skies over Ukraine should be closed by any sort of the means. In other words, he's done everything to support Ukraine while performing his duties as the governor. And he still supports Ukraine a lot, so as for me, I think Kamala Harris is much better candidate compared to Donald Trump, I mean relative to Ukraine. Never ever I would support vice president of Donald Trump and in general Trump's policy towards Ukraine. That's why the choice is obvious if you want to support Ukraine and if you're an American citizen. And what's about Donald Trump? Well, he will give the interview to Elon Musk. So Elon Musk is not just entrepreneur, not only billionaire and the owner of the profitable businesses, he is also the interviewer nowadays. Well, I expect that everything will be as biased as usual. We're gonna hear the usual Trump's stuff. And now, my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.